or whatever it takes, by any means necessary. Failure is not an option kind of grind.
I have to take the teachable moment here, since the target audience for this interview are young girls, young women, teenagers through young adults who will face these types of challenges. Talk to our listeners and our viewers about what that is like when you recognize that the opposition is coming from another woman, how you maneuvered it. Obviously, you had some other women who were cheerleading for you and had advocates, which we know is in any industry is so important. But just sort of that immediate advice that even just deals with the heartache of, oh my gosh, wait, you're not in my corner. Talk about that a bit.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, it's really hard and it's really heartbreaking, and it's a whole lot of how do I survive this? And so I would say that I've developed the various coping mechanisms. It's really important to have good girlfriends, whether they are in your business or whether they're doing something else, just somebody who can listen to you. If you've got in your family, if it's a sister or your mother or somebody else, but in my case, my mom died when I was in my early 20s. So I didn't have my mom to talk to. My dad was always very supportive, but it was really my girlfriends who listened and who helped me through those difficult situations. You look at somebody who you realize, you have to have perspective. This person is jealous of you. This person is threatened by you. But one thing that I somehow, I don't know, intuitively or through, reading, through meditation, through a variety of ways of trying to cope, I realized, don't cuss the person out. And I say that because it's not that I didn't want to. But that's not what you should do. You should figure out some really articulate ways to let the person know that you realize what they're doing, and then just do your job and figure out the next strategy. So I always was, not that I wasn't frustrated, not that I wasn't, I'm not a big crier, so it wasn't like that, but not that I wasn't ready to say some bad words to people. But I always tried to figure out what is my next plan, and I plotted it along the way. One thing that was really critical for me is to have, to make sure that if I got to the point where I felt I couldn't stand it anymore, that I could quit. And what that meant was I made sure that I had a few months of my living expenses saved. And I know that's easier said than done.
Right.
But there are times when you don't buy the purse, you don't buy you don't go out to dinner every night, you don't go out to drinks all the time. You make sure that there is something that you have saved so that if you need to leave, you can. And that's true for whether it's a job or whether it's your personal life. You need to make sure that you've got an emergency fund that you can leave. But I also had some other situations, even when things were going well, every now and then things can turn and they can go in the wrong direction. So I had another situation, a few years later, where I had a boss, another woman, and things had started out well. And then I realized that I was really being disrespected. I would schedule meetings and the person would make me sit outside her office for an hour. And I thought, really, because I'm like a grown person here. We've set up a meeting. I've sent you the agenda, and really, because you're not, what else are you doing that it is necessary for you to make me sit outside of your office for an hour? That's really not respectful. And so when I saw, and then I had a moment, I was at my godson's graduation at Harvard. And I had arranged to go that day. And I got a call from the person's secretary saying, you need to come back to New York. And I'm like, I'm at my godson's graduation. Can you tell me why? And back and forth, no explanation. You need to come back to New York. I said, okay. So I was on a 7 a.m. plane the next morning. I came and it was for nothing.
Wow.
And at that moment I said, okay, I've got to go, because I had the money saved, but I plotted it out and I said, 6 months from now, I will be gone. And I smiled, I did my work. And 2 weeks before I was ready to go, I said, thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
Very, very smoothly handled, when I'm sure deep down there's some part of you saying, so here's what we're not going to do. What you're not going to do is call me at my, a loved one's graduation and pull me back for nothing.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh.
But it is hard. It is a hard lesson to learn. And I think, and I remember the, moments earlier when I was very frustrated, when I was in Houston and I was going through all of that. And my dad, I would come back home to Indianapolis and get off the plane, and I'm complaining to my father, and he says, oh, you just have to hang in there. And I'm like, you just don't understand, Daddy. So I mean, but he was trying to fortify me in a really difficult situation. And over time, I learned how to internalize the strength that I needed to look at the long picture, because there are moments when you really have to leave. I mean, you really say, I can't. Tamron Hall is an example. Absolutely. When we saw Tamron, she was so disrespected in that moment. And I think there were a lot of people who said, well, sis, just hang in there because of all that money. How can you do that? And she's like, I just can't. And then it turned out she was saying the right thing, and NBC was doing the wrong thing, and it blew up. But you have to be true to yourself. At the same time, you don't want to cut your legs off.
All I want is to be the best that I can be.